beheaded one of my nutcrackers, the night circus, but in a less poetic way. It is absurd. It is very silly, goofy. The dog in question. What's up, guys? My name is Natalie, and welcome to my Nook of Novels. In today's video, I am going to be telling you guys about every single series that I am in the middle of within some capacity. The reason that I say that is because some of these series are not things that I am trying to prioritize at all whatsoever. A lot of them are things that I'm going to have to start over with in order to even remember what is going on in order to continue with them. But some of these series are super fresh in my brain and things that I'm really trying to get on my TBRs right now so that I can go ahead and finish them up. I'm not going to be going in any particular order. I'm kind of just going to go through them from top to bottom as they appear on my list where I keep track of all of them. I'm not going to go into crazy detail about all of these just because there are so vastly many of them that I think this video would last for hours on end, so I'm not going to over-explain anything. I'll probably give you guys a brief synopsis of kind of what each of these series are about and obviously like what book in the series I'm on, but aside from that, I'm not really going to be going into much detail about any of these. Before I begin, I do want to report an incident that has occurred recently. I am on the hunt for a homicidal cat who has beheaded one of my nutcrackers out of pure evilness and spite, I'm assuming. Not only has that occurred, but she also robbed this other poor man of his hat. So this is obviously a very evil creature that we are dealing with who has no mercy whatsoever for human or nutcracker kind. So I fear I may have found a suspect. She's got a murderous look in her eyes, I can tell. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to the unfinished series. So the first one I'm in the middle of is Olympus by Rachel Smythe, and I've only read the first volume of this, but I did really enjoy it, and so I do really want to continue on with the series and read all of these volumes that are out so far. I read this first book for a 24-hour readathon back in December that I did, and I remember really liking it. I especially loved the art style and kind of the coloration that was used throughout this. There was a couple pages that I found to be absolutely gorgeous. For example, this page I feel like is very gorgeous with, again, like the coloring is absolutely beautiful. I also really like, if I can find it again, this page. All of the ones where the water coloring is super prevalent, I think all of those pages like that are absolutely stunning and gorgeous. I like this one too. I just love all like the pinks, purples, and blues when they are super prominent and when they're super like rich colors. I just think that it's so stunning and beautiful and it looks amazing and gorgeous. This one again is so pretty. And there's so many examples I could show you guys, but I'll just stop there. Again, just the art in this and the story itself was super intriguing too, and I just remember really loving this. So this is one that I'm, again, super excited to continue with. This is not really a priority for me just because it's so easy to just go back and reread this, and I definitely would have to because it's been 6 months since I read this, and that wouldn't be too crazy long if it wasn't a short graphic novel, because that's just not something that really, the plot will stay in my memory very well if it's not something that I really like spent a lot of time reading. So I would definitely have to reread this, but again, like that's not a crazy issue. The biggest thing for me is just that I have so many other series to prioritize that I'm not really worried about this one at the moment when I could really go and read this full series at any point. So I do definitely plan to do that at some point. I'm just not sure exactly when I'm going to start that process. I forgot to mention what Olympus is about, but it's just a Hades and Persephone retelling, a little romance book, and that's pretty much all you need to know going into it. I don't really remember anything specific about the plot aside from that, but that's the main, I would say, idea of what it's about. The next series I'm in the middle of is The Maze Runner, and this is one that I've been in the middle of for a very long time. I just recently read The Kill Order, so I'm on to the final book in the series, which is The Fever Code. These are by James Dashner. I first read The Maze Runner back in 2020 during the pandemic, and I really enjoyed that first book. I thought it was super exciting. It's obviously super fast-paced, super fun, very unique and innovative, and you can really see why it is such a staple dystopian book from the 2010s. And then I think as the series goes on, it kind of strays further and further from the original plot and the original idea that made it so interesting. If you're unfamiliar with The Maze Runner, it kind of follows this group of boys who are kind of trapped in this deadly maze where a new boy arrives. I want to say it's like every day or every week or something like that, and none of them can remember anything about their past aside from their names. So it's very fascinating. But then again, like the sequels kind of start to feel very repetitive, and it's a dystopian world, nowhere is safe, what are we gonna do? And it's kind of just that over and over, at least to me, that's what it feels like. So I'm kind of just really ready to wrap this series up and be done with it so that it's another thing off my list. But hopefully this last book is better. Hopefully it's more exciting and has the vibes of more of the first book, but we'll just see when I read this one. The next series that I have yet to finish is The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. And this is one that I was really, really enjoying, and it was a lot of a priority series for me for a while, but again, it kind of just got to a point where I have no idea what was going on, and I'm definitely gonna have to start over and just kind of binge the whole series at once. I think that will be much more enjoyable, and I'll know what's going on a lot more. So this is, I want to say it's like a 9-book series. I don't remember how many of them are actually books and how many of them are novellas, because there are some novellas that go along with it. I don't know how many exactly. I want to say there's like 15 or 16 books total, including all of the books and all of the novellas. So I don't know if that's exactly right, but it's somewhere around that number, so do with that what you will. The books are definitely larger. There's a lot of plot and things that are happening in them. They're very plot heavy, but the characters are also super fun too. And the main character, it's really fun to kind of be in his head because he's really like funny and kind of sarcastic sometimes, and it's just a really exciting series to read in my opinion. It is a sci-fi which follows, I don't really remember the main characters' stories or anything, but I know there's a big war happening between all these different planets. That's really all I remember, but I know that the plot was super fast-paced and exciting, and I was super invested. I was reading, even though they were larger, they felt easier to get through even when it was taking me a while to read them, if that makes sense. So I really enjoyed those, and that's definitely one that I'm going to be really excited to jump back into when I at some point start over with that series. This next series is a very similar story, and that is Alex Rider by Anthony Horowitz. This is a middle grade / young YA. I want to say it's more middle grade. It's about this kid who's a spy, and that's really all I remember about it, but I remember being pleasantly surprised by the first book. This is the second book, Point Blank. I have not read this. I've only read the first one, but I, again, don't really remember what happened. I'm definitely going to have to reread it so that I can continue with the series, but I definitely do want to read this entire series. I think it would be fun for maybe like some sort of readathon or something where I'm trying to binge quicker books, something along that kind of vibe. I think this would be really fun to delve into. It was just really exciting. Like the plot was super fun even for such a young book, and I really enjoyed reading the first book. So this is one that I am excited to read the rest of as well. This next series is probably the most embarrassing one on this list that I have not finished yet, and that is the Enemy series by Charlie Hickson. I cannot tell you guys how long it has been since I have been meaning to continue with these. I want to say it was also in 2020 during the pandemic when I read the first book in the series, or maybe even a little bit before that, but I want to say I had to reread the first book either once or twice to get back into the series, and I'm honestly just gonna have to bite the bullet and just speed through the last 2 books and hope and pray that I remember what's going on. It was really good. Like, these are really fast-paced. They are post-apocalyptic zombie type stories where basically all of the people over the age of 16 in this book, all of them turn into these zombie-like creatures, and then all the kids have to kind of fight against them and learn to kind of govern themselves in this new world while they're fighting off all of these zombies. And it was really fun. There's a lot of different characters. They all have really fun different names, code names and nicknames for each other, and there's some some also kind of like biblical, not necessarily references, but like I think allusion might be the word I'm looking for, but there was kind of a angel versus devil kind of plot thing that was going on here. I don't really know how to explain it, but it was very fun. It wasn't preachy or anything. Like it was like fun, religious vibes, if that makes sense. It was really interesting what it was doing there, and I'm excited to see kind of where that goes in the rest of these books, because we as the reader at the point that I got to, I remember we don't necessarily know which side is which, and I love when that happens in a book. I think that it's really fun. So I'm excited to figure that out, as well as delving into some of the other types of characters, because there's a certain, I don't know how to explain it. I'm just going to call it a species of creature that we kind of just got introduced to recently in the series as well. And I'm excited to see more of those creature characters because it was really fun. So yeah, again, I feel like I've been in the middle of the series for an absurdly long amount of time, but I'm just really excited to finish the series up and see how Charlie Hickson manages to wrap everything up. The next unfinished series I have is Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is a series I'm reading to my boyfriend, and we are on volume 9 right now out of 11 that are out. I think there's a 12th one that's supposed to come out at some point. I'm not sure exactly when that's expected to be out, but I know we have all the volumes through 11 right now, and this one is super fun. Honestly, this is one of the fastest I've ever gone through a series, I think, of this many books. This honestly might be the longest series I've ever actually not completed, obviously, because I'm still reading it, but we will be completing this relatively soon. I'm hoping we'll definitely be completing this at some point by the end of the year, if nothing else, but this like might be the longest series I've ever gotten all the way through. It's definitely really good, and I'm never like dreading picking these up. I don't feel like this is a series where I'm kind of just reading it so that I can complete it. It's definitely one that is super interesting to keep reading, and even like 9 volumes later, the plot is still super there and present and exciting. And yeah, I mean, I'm just having a really great time with this and with these characters, and like I've been saying for all of these series, I am excited to see where this goes and to finish it out. This next series is one that I kind of forgot about for quite a while until I saw the most recent book of this in Barnes & Noble the other day, and that is The Children of Orisha. I do not remember the author. It's Tomi Adeyemi. So the first book is Children of Blood and Bone. The second book is Children of Virtue and Vengeance, and I don't exactly remember what the third book is called, but that is the newest book that just got released. And I honestly think I'm going to listen to the audiobook of the first two to kind of refresh my memory so that I can go into the third book and actually know what's going on instead of being completely lost. But I remember loving the first book. I know it's based in African mythology, and I thought the magic system was really fun and done very well. And I just found it to be a super exciting story. And I also remember that the first book had an enemies to lovers plotline happening in it that was also super, super fun and made me so invested in continuing reading that book. And I think, I want to say it was definitely 2021 or like the end of 2020 when I was reading the first book in that series. And I want to say I read the second book close after that. I definitely didn't like the second book as much as I did the first book, but I'm still excited to see, like, again, how that trilogy wraps up. I think it's only a trilogy. I'm definitely planning to listen to the audiobooks of all of those very soon. But yeah, again, like, I loved the first book a lot. I thought it was so good. So that one is definitely super exciting and pretty high on my list to get to as soon as I can. This next series is another one that's not really a priority for me, and that is Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan. The reason that I'm not really super trying to prioritize this is just because it is such, not necessarily a long series, but a long connected series, like a long universe to read, because I want to read all of the Rick Riordan books. Once I kind of open this can of worms, I kind of want to just keep going and fully delve into the whole universe, because I know a lot of people really love it, and I feel like it's definitely going to be very fun to kind of read through all of those series instead of just the one. And I feel like it's not going to be very hard to kind of continue with the series at the point that I'm at right now, especially because I've seen a movie for Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, and so that is kind of like super prevalent in my brain for some reason. I want to say I watched that movie when I was like 8 or 9 years old, but for some reason it always just kind of stuck in the back of my brain, and so I basically know the exact plot, like page by page, whatever. happened in the second book. That might be a little dramatic, but I'm very familiar with what happens in the second book, at least like the general plot structure and the basic characters. So I really don't feel like it's going to be hard at all to continue with the series at the third book, no matter when I pick this up. So I'm really not worried about remembering what's going on. However, I do think that it will be an issue if I continue this sooner. Let's say I read the third or the fourth book and then I take this huge hiatus and try to pick back up at the fifth book. I think I'll be much more likely to be confused and not necessarily know what's going on in these stories anymore. So this is one I'm trying to just keep on the back burner in my brain until I have gotten through a lot more of my series and I have a much shorter list to get through so that I can really focus more on this one and prioritize the whole Percy Jackson universe. My next series is The Crown's Game duology by Evelyn Skye. This is the second book, The Crown's Faith, and I read the first book again probably in 2020. That's when I started a lot of new series. I want to say that's when I first started doing my Wheel of TBR, so I was kind of going crazy with my TBRs and kind of just trying to read as many books as I could that would pick for me and not necessarily focusing too much on continuing with series just because it wasn't really an issue that I had at the time. So it kind of got out of control and I started all these new series and I realized I could not necessarily continue all of them all at the same time. So that's when things started getting out of control and I'm trying to kind of fix that now by continuing and wrapping up all these series. But I remember really enjoying The Crown's Game and I remember seeing it a lot on Haley's channel from Haley in Bookland. I watched her videos religiously. I literally think I've seen every single one that she posted up until 2020 because I literally just went back and like watched through all of them because I was obsessed. I thought they were so good and so fun. And she talked about The Crown's Game a lot in those. And so it sounded really good to me. It sounded really interesting and it was really good. It's kind of along the vibes of The Night Circus, but in a less poetic way. It's kind of more plot based and it follows these two characters who discover that they can use magic. And I want to say it's a very rare thing in this book because it's set in Russia and I want to say whoever has magic becomes some sort of apprentice to the Tsar, I think is how you say it, like basically the king of Russia. These two people both end up with these magical abilities and have to kind of do a duel, but there's also kind of a romance happening and the stakes are very high. It's very fun. I just remember like the plot being really good, the magic being super fun, and I remember the ending being devastating and like it left on this crazy cliffhanger where you can kind of tell exactly how it's gonna go in the sequel, but it was still like super fun and just made me really want to pick up the second book and then I never did. So I'm definitely gonna have to reread The Crown's Game, but that's not something I'm mad about at all. It's definitely something that I do really want to pick up and re-immerse myself in the world of so that I can finish out this duology. This next series is one that has been extremely prevalent in my last few videos, and that is Magic Treehouse by Mary Pope Osborne. As of right now, I am on number 30, which is Haunted Castle on Hallows Eve, and I'm onto the Merlin mission books. So these are kind of the second half of the series, and they are written a little bit older than the first 27 or 28 books. So they're a little bit longer. They're really fun. The illustrations are fun. The story is fun. It's very quick and like mindless, but again, it's very nostalgic. It's very fun, for lack of a better word, and I really am enjoying working my way back through the series. Next up, we have The Band by Nicholas Eames. So this is a trilogy, but I want to say the third book has been like supposed to come out for years now, and it still hasn't. So I'm not really sure how much faith I am putting on Nicholas Eames to finally come out with this next book anytime within the near future. But the first book is Kings of the Wild, and this book was so good. I read this to my boyfriend and it was super funny. It was super enjoyable and the plot was so exciting. I remember this just being such a fun time. Kings of the Wild follows a group of mercenaries who are essentially retired. So they are these older men who they were mercenaries in their youth and they have long since retired. The band has split up and they have to get back together to save one of the band members' daughters, and it's very silly, very funny, and has all of the fun, silly old man vibes. I did not want to put this book down. It was just something that I kept wanting to pick up and keep reading more of, and the writing like really hooked me and just made me super invested in the stories. So we read the first part of the second book, which is Bloody Rose, and my boyfriend didn't like that one as much just because it follows completely different characters. The start of the book didn't really dive into the action very quickly, and it didn't seem to be written in the same style just because it's obviously following a different set of characters, so it didn't necessarily have that like old man kind of like snarky, sarcastic kind of humor to it. So it was definitely very good still. I really do want to go and continue with that book just so that I can have the experience of reading the sequel and seeing where the story kind of continued off with this new character and this new band, just because I think that anything that takes place in that world is just going to be really fun. I don't see myself disliking it no matter how it goes. Like, even if it's not as fun as the first book, I still expect it to be some degree of fun and some level of enjoyable, so that's definitely one that I am excited for. This next series is the Cat and Mouse Duet by H.D. Carlton. So the first book being Haunting Adeline and the second book being Hunting Adeline. This is a romance between a girl and her stalker, and that's really all you need to know going into this about the plot. It is absurd, it is very silly goofy, and it is such a fun time. And the only reason I haven't continued with this duology yet is, well, there's a couple of reasons. The first reason is that I was going to check out the sequel from my library, but they don't actually have it there, so I'm gonna have to purchase it from a thrift store. The second reason is that I want to do a spoiler vlog on the sequel to this book, but I have a lot of other video projects that I've been working on throughout June and July, and I just don't think I'm gonna have time within the near future to really focus on a vlog like that. So I'm trying to kind of push it back into August and read it then so that I can give it my full attention, so that I can focus more on that book and that vlog and make it as exciting as I can and really like put my full effort into it instead of trying to split it up between that video as well as a bunch of other video projects all at the same time. I also need to reorganize my bookshelves first so that I can go to the thrift store and try to find this book, because the main thrift bookstore that I use has kind of a book exchange kind of thing where you can donate books to them and they'll give you credits towards the store. So I want to take full advantage of that and not spend real money on this book. I'd rather trade in books that I'm already planning to get rid of so that I can use that to purchase the sequel instead of spending my actual money on it. That's the plan for this one, but I'm definitely super excited to read the sequel because this book was such a wild time. I will have my video on this book linked in the description if y'all want to go check that out. This was so fun. It was so absurd that it was enjoyable. It was one of those things where it was so bad it was good, just because it was so hectic and chaotic and there were so many absurdly questionable things that were happening in this book, and it was just really exciting. It was a really fun time and I genuinely really enjoyed my experience reading this book. So I'm very excited to do a vlog on the second book and I just can't wait. It's gonna be very exciting. So yeah. Next up we have The Fateful and the Fallen series by John Glen, and I've read the first two books, which were Malice and Valor, and I really enjoyed both of those. I would say I enjoyed Malice just a little bit more because the plot was kind of moving a little bit, not necessarily faster, but it felt like a faster pace just because the pacing of the first book kind of matched more with the foundational world building aspects that were going on as we started to learn about this fantastical world and immerse ourselves in it as the reader, whereas the second book kind of kept a very similar pace to that, alongside the fact that we were already in the world at that point, so it kind of felt like there should have been a little bit more going on. But nonetheless, I'm very excited to read this third book and kind of see where things go. I'm definitely hoping the plot speeds up and that we get into not necessarily more action things, but there's a lot of kind of battles and political happenings that have been going on, and my interest is definitely piqued by those political elements, and I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing how, not necessarily how this wraps up, because this is only book 3 out of 4, but just how those are kind of continued with. And so far throughout the series, it's kind of been very even between like the good and the bad side, so I'm really interested to see if the scales kind of start to tip one way or the other and the stakes kind of start to get a little bit higher as this war kind of gets more intense and things start getting out of hand. As like a synopsis kind of what's going on in this series, it's a medieval fantasy where there's basically a god called Elion who has essentially abandoned the world due to an ancient kind of myth where, I don't remember exactly the lore of it, but people essentially don't believe in him anymore, but it's very kind of like prophecy based and ancient like lore kind of things happening, very medieval. Those are kind of the vibes of it. So it's definitely very, very fun, and I'm excited to see where the rest of this goes. The next series on this list is the Shatter Me series by Tahar Mafi. This is one that I'm reading to my boyfriend, and we read Shatter Me. We read the first half of the novella Destroy Me, but he didn't like the perspective in that book, so I ended up just reading the rest on my own, and now we are reading Unravel Me. This series follows a girl named Juliet who has this ability where every time she touches someone, she causes them pain, and she is able to kill people with this power. So she ends up locked in this asylum, and that's kind of where Shatter Me starts off. The writing of the series is so poetic and fun, but it's also very simple. It's a very easy writing style to get into, and the descriptors make a lot of sense, but it's very metaphorical and again like poetic, like I said, and I just think it's very fun. It's very beautiful. The second book is kind of getting into more of a dystopian type of vibe where these people are kind of hiding out and they're not really sure if they're safe or not. They're trying to figure out kind of how to function, how to kind of rebuild this society that has been broken. That's not really spoilery at all, so don't worry about that, but that's very fun. There's more plot in this book than there was in the first one, I would say, but this one almost is like slightly slower than that one in my opinion. I don't really know how to explain why. I guess we're less kind of in the main character's head, just listening to her thoughts as she's processing who she is as a human being, and we're more kind of looking at the events happening around them and kind of following the events of this group of people. So it's definitely different than the first book was, but it's still really enjoyable, and like obviously there's a lot of the series left to go, as well as the new spin-off series that just came out, Watch Me. So very excited to see where the series goes and kind of what happens with these characters as these books progress. This next series I have is not necessarily a series, but this book is The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera, which is the prequel to They Both Die at the End. And there's another book out now which is called The Survivor Wants to Die at the End. I don't know, I'm assuming that one is also a prequel. It could be a sequel, I'm not really sure. I haven't really looked into that one too much yet, but I definitely really enjoyed They Both Die at the End. I want to say I gave it like 4 stars, and also read it somewhere in the ballpark of 2020. I'm not sure exactly when, but definitely really enjoyed it, and it was very upsetting and sad, obviously, which I love in a book. So I'm excited to experience another book set in that universe. And something specifically that I remember about They Both Die at the End is the fact that the characters were all very interconnected in kind of different ways. That was super fun. There was essentially this whole web of how everyone was connected to everybody else, and they kind of all had some relationship to each other in some way that tied together very significantly at the end of the book, and I thought that was done so well. I thought those character connections were so significant and poignant to how the story was told and how it wrapped up and tied together, and I thought that was very well done. So I'm excited to see how those character dynamics are explored in this book, as well as just kind of what happens in the story and seeing multiple sides of this universe and what Adam Silvera does with a different set of characters within this. Also, if you're unfamiliar with the plot of They Both Die at the End, it follows these 2 characters who live in this world where you get a phone call on the day you're going to die telling you that you're going to die that day. They don't tell you what time or how or anything like that. You just kind of have to live the rest of your day knowing that that's all the time that you have left. We are nearing close to the end, so we only have a few left, so fear not. The next series I have is the Divergent trilogy by Veronica Roth. And I've actually already completed the main 3 books in this trilogy, but there's also a novella called 4, which I have yet to read. And I don't want to say that I've completed the series without also reading that novella, because I want to experience the full realm of books that take place in this universe before saying that I completely wrapped it up. Divergent was really, really fun. This trilogy was definitely super quick-paced and easy to kind of fly through. The 3rd book wasn't as good as the first 2. I feel like that's a general consensus that most people agree upon that I've heard the opinions of regarding these books. The ending was upsetting to a lot of people. I didn't really care that much. I didn't think that it was absurd, and I wasn't like deeply horrified that it ended that way, but I definitely just didn't care as much as I feel like I probably should have. But I'm definitely excited to see a novella from 4's perspective. And honestly, above all, I just hope that it goes by quickly so that I can say that I've wrapped up the series, because books 1 and 2 were really enjoyable, but by the time I'm at this point in the series, I'm kind of just over it. So I hope to enjoy 4, obviously, but even if I don't, I will be happy to have finally completed the Divergent trilogy. Next up is the Six Crimson Cranes duology by Elizabeth Lim. I want to say the second book is called like The Dragons something or another, I don't remember, but the first book follows this girl who is a princess, but she's basically cast away by her stepmother based on this like magic spell which renders her faceless and mute, so that I think there's some sort of like mask or something that is like permanently like stuck to her head so that nobody can identify her. She's cast far away from her home, and every time she speaks, one of her siblings will die. It seems that premises I feel like sounds very interesting. I wasn't super invested in it when I first read it, so I kind of just want to read the sequel for the sake of like getting through the duology. And I honestly don't even know how connected they are. I don't know if it's like a direct duology or if it's slightly similar or not similar at all. I just know that Goodreads says that it is technically the sequel. So I'm going to listen to that audiobook and I'll either enjoy it or I will have gone through another series. The next 2 series that I'm in the middle of are both Cassandra Clare books. So the first one is The Infernal Devices and the second one is The Moral Instruments. So these series both take place in the same universe, and the order you're supposed to read them in is the first 3 Mortal Instruments, then The Infernal Devices trilogy, and then the last 3 Mortal Instruments. So the most recent of this series that I read was City of Glass, and then I read the first of this series, which was Clockwork Angel. And I loved City of Glass. I loved those first 3 books. I found them to be very exciting, and I found the plot to be super fun and fast-paced and just really enjoyable. This universe in general kind of follows these shadow hunters who are people with these magical abilities where you're able to kill demons in order to protect the human population, but there are also vampires and werewolves and warlocks, and they're all kind of coexisting together, but not always peacefully. There's obviously some like disputes here and there and political aspects, and I just think it's very fun, and I think it's done very well, and the character elements are super exciting as well as just like the general plot things. But then Clockwork Angel, I just did not enjoy as much. I thought it was very slow. There just wasn't as much happening, and I feel like Mortal Instruments kind of used that magic system to its advantage and made like a very fun and immersive kind of plot out of it, whereas The Infernal Devices, it definitely could have done a lot more, especially with some of the abilities that were introduced from the main character in that. So I found that to be lacking, but I'm definitely hoping that the next 2 books in this trilogy pick up and are more exciting than that first book was, but we'll just have to wait and see. The last few chapters of Clockwork Angel were definitely much more fun and exciting. So again, we'll just have to see, and I'm very much hoping that the series gets better as it goes. This one, however, very fun, and I'm truly very excited to continue with. The next series I'm reading is Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto, and this is another one that I'm reading to my boyfriend. We haven't touched these in quite a long time. We got to volume 6, and the thing with this series, so I own the first book, and while I was going to college my first semester, I still am, I'm doing online school right now though, but my first semester I was going in person, and the city where I was going to school had this series at the library, but where I live right now, it does not. So I'm going to be borrowing these books from a friend very soon so that we can get back into the series, and I was gonna say finish it out. I don't know how many of these books my friend has. I want to say it's like a few from the end, so we might have to make a couple trips to Barnes & Noble / the book thrift store to fully finish with the series, but I'm excited to be able to make some more progress soon. They're definitely very action-packed, and the character abilities are very unique and fun, and the dog is really cool. So super stoked to actually make more progress in this very soon. The dog in question. The next series I have is this one. I don't really know if this has a name. It says it's a Hunger Games novel, so I guess it's technically part of the Hunger Games series. I feel like Sunrise on the Reaping and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes I kind of keep in my brain as like separate series, but I guess they are technically part of the Hunger Games. So this is the Hunger Games prequel, which follows Haymitch. If y'all don't know what the Hunger Games is, it's a dystopian novel about these group of kids who get thrown in an arena and have to fight to the death. I love the vibes of kind of the capital in these stories with like all of their fun like makeup and wigs and how they dress and all their decor and everything. It's very fun. It's very, I don't know if there's a word for the aesthetic of it, but that's like my favorite part of all of these stories and the movies is just like them being in the capital. I don't know how much of that there is in this book necessarily, but probably a similar amount to the others if I would guess. But I love Haymitch. He is really silly, I feel like, as a character, and I'm excited to experience his story in Sunrise on the Reaping. This one is not necessarily a priority for me. I know it came out kind of recently, but I'm not like crazy hyped for it, and there's a lot of other things I need to read right now. And also my roommate is borrowing this, so I'll have to wait until she's completed with it anyway to read it, but I'm sure at some point this will be calling my name, so I'll just wait until I'm like in the mood for this to read it. But I do expect to enjoy it when that occurs. It's not calling out to me as of right now. Next up, we have the Dragon Slayers Academy series, and I read the first 5 books in this series. I loved these as a kid. They are on par with Magic Treehouse in terms of age and stuff like that. I like them more than Magic Treehouse, I would say, just because they kind of are my sense of humor, like to this day, not even just me as a child, especially the first book, because I read these to my boyfriend and they were so silly. In the first book, every single line, from like even just the characters' names to like the things they're saying, the thing they're doing, like the way everything is explained, it's just so silly, it's so funny, very whimsical vibes. So I really enjoy this series. It's very funny and very fun, and it's a great time. It's by Kay McMullen, and it's about this kid who gets whisked off to a dragon slaying academy basically, and he is trying to become the first student to slay a dragon so that he can, I guess, bring wealth back to his family who hates him. So it's very silly and a very good time. And the final series on this list is Graves Glen. So I read the X-Hex. I don't remember who it's by, but I remember the vibes being super fun. It's basically just like a witchy Halloween romance book. I listened to the audiobook of it. I read it for a book club that I was partaking in, and it was really fun. Again, super Halloween vibes. Honestly, like that would be the main way that I would describe this book, is just very Halloween vibes. That is like the main aspect of the story. I know the second book is also like Halloweeny, and then the third book is Christmassy. So I'm not sure exactly if I'm planning on reading those books around Christmas and Halloween. I'm definitely not opposed to it. I definitely think that could be very fun, so I might do that. But I also might just go ahead and read them so that I can get through another series that I'm listening to on audio. But we'll just have to wait and see. So those are all of the series that I'm in the middle of. If you guys have any series recommendations, or if you have read any of these series, then please let me know in the comments down below what you thought of these series or what you love about any particular series that you have in mind. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, then please hit the like button and subscribe if you would like to, and hit the notification bell if you would like to see the other videos that I post on Mondays and Thursdays, with reading sprints on every first and third Monday of the month. Starting in August, I will be posting only on Thursdays, but also having those reading sprints on those first and third Mondays. My Bookstagram, my Goodreads, and my book talk will all be linked in the description of this video if you guys would like to check out any of those. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!